Okay, guys, we better get started. Like I was just saying, last week we did a lot of stuff, and we went through the entire how to set up a basic house, and that's actually quite a lot of stuff to absorb at once. But it's important to get it down for the first week, just so you have something at least to refer to in the video and so on. This week I'm not going to do so much stuff at the same time. I'm not going to do so much stuff and so many new concepts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how to sort out the site, the location of the site, and the idea of massing. So I'm only going to give you a lecture today, and then tomorrow what we'll do is we'll work on your project. So you almost have some kind of design at some stage for the project that Niels gave you. So we'll work tomorrow on just setting that up for everybody, so everybody can set it up on Revit if you haven't done it already. I'm going to go around and troubleshoot a little bit and answer questions on that. So today is really this week is really trying to absorb two things: how to make the basic house like we did last week, which was 2 full lectures, and then today it's about massing and site and the powerful things we can do with that stuff. Okay, so I hope this won't be as long, I reckon, as the lectures from last week, but it'll give you a lot of chance to try some new stuff out. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, and you're welcome to follow along with me on your screen if you want to get the full benefit, and I'm going to do it a little bit slow, but we'll try and get it done once first of all, and then we can do it again and you can ask questions and so on, because we've got an hour and a half or whatever. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up an architectural template, like always. Can you see the screen there? Is it just about? Screwed. Okay, so I'm going to start a new project. Now, what I'm going to show you first of all is how to set the position of your site and the general layout of your site for any building project. So I'm going to go to the site layout, site plan, over here on the left. So double click on site. And then we go up to the menu up here called massing and site. And this deals with everything to do with this kind of general stuff. You can see here we've got topo surface. So this is how you design or how you define the actual contours, hills, valleys, and so on, and the general dimensions of the site that you're working on. Over here we have site components where you can add in trees and bits and pieces depending on what you're having there. And then we have a couple of extra things over here. We've got parking components. Just because car parking is usually so important for the economics of a building project, they have a specific button for parking components. So that means is rather than drawing the parking components with lines, if you insert them as a component, you can then get Revit to calculate a schedule as to how many parking spaces are in your project and so on, so you don't have to go and manually count them. So that's the reason for that. But to start off with, I'm going to click on topo surface, and once we do that, we get this green tab turns up, modify edit surface, and we've got 3 options in there under tools. One is place point. You can see there's a point ready to be placed on the in the icon in front of me. What happened there? The other one is create from import, and this is really powerful and a really good tool, because it means that if you get a land surveyor to survey a piece of land, he's either going to give you some kind of electronic drawing, or he's going to give you an Excel file with a series of points on it. You can see there's a kind of graphical representation there on the right, a CSV file, which is just a series of points, X, Y, and Z coordinates in the world. You can actually use this and just import it into Revit, and Revit will automatically generate a landscape that follows those point calculations. Yeah?
Can we use Google Maps?
You can use Google Maps if The issue with Google Maps is I usually use Google Maps, but they haven't updated the plugin for Google Earth for the 2015 version of Revit yet. So we're waiting for that to happen. I think it's due to happen in October. So then when that comes in, we'll go through it again and see how you can do that. The thing about Google Earth is it's good to start a project off because it gives you a general idea, but it's really not very accurate. It's like out by a couple of meters in some places and so on. So it's not something you can rely on for a full project. So usually what happens is that you get a survey, and you're all going to get a chance to go out and survey your sites later in the semester out in Udersleem-Mose, and come back with a CSV file containing the points, and we can go through and insert those points into Revit and generate the site. But if you just want to get started, we can just use this place point tool. And if I just go in here and say I'm going to place a point here, and I'm going to place a point here, as soon as I place the third point, it starts to generate some kind of a surface. So all those points are placed at elevation 0, 0. And elevation is what gives us the height from the land. So if I continue, let's say I wanted to make a curve of points. I'm going to change the elevation here maybe to 1 meter. So I'm going to change it to 1,000. I'm going to put a point here. You can see as I do that, the contours start to generate out. So let's change it to 1,500. Going to do it like this. And we'll change it to 2,000. And just so it's a slope in one direction, I'm also going to select this point here, which was originally at 0, and I'm going to change that to 2,000 as well. Or maybe let's make it a bit bigger. Let's change it to 2,500. So once we're kind of more or less happy with that, we just press the little green button here. And then if we go into the 3D view, you can see that we've generated a site which has curves and contours. Now, if we want to see what the drop of the site is across a specific position, we can make a cross section through the site. And like always in Revit, whenever you want to make a new view or a new type of view, you go into the View tool at the top, press View, and I press Section. And now I can very simply just draw a section line. Let's say we want to draw a section line right across here to get the slope going that direction. And you can see that the arrows are pointing this way, which means that the cross section is taken across here, and the view is taken over in this direction. So now we go over to the section we've just created, and we can see that that's the slope across the site that we've created. Does that make sense to everybody?
Sorry, I have some. When I try to make points, it doesn't happen.
Okay. Will I do it one more time, and then I'll go around and help everybody give it a go, yeah? Let's do it like that. Okay, I'm going to go back into the site view. I'm going to delete this and delete that. So, to start again, we start in the site view, so make sure you double click the site view over on the left here. Then we go into massing and site, and topo surface is the one that creates the landscape for us. So I select topo surface, and I'm just going to use place point tool. So it's as simple as just drawing the shape of the site that you want. Is that working for people? So I've drawn it at 2,000 this time. Let's say I'm going to change this one here to 1,500, and I'm going to change this one here to 1,500, and I'm going to change the bottom here to let's just change that to 0. So straight away we've got a contour in there. So then we can continue to add points. Click on place point and add this at 1,000, and we can modify the contours as we go across. Do it again, place point, 1,500. and accept it. And if we go into the 3D view, and let's switch on some shading here. What about this one? You can see that we've just created a topographical surface there. Then what we can do is we can switch on the section box like this, and if we take the section box and just bring it back and slice it through the topography, you can see it actually gives us a representation of something that's underneath, which is, you know, a kind of a better way of looking at the slope, because it gives you a reference. You have a flat one at the bottom, and then you have the slope at the top. Okay, I'll get everybody to do that, and I'll go around and give you a hand. Just going to hold pause on this. All right, so now we've got this mountain here we've been playing with a little bit. And the nice thing about this is if I go back into the site view, the plan view, double click on site, we have this mountain, and it's showing us these kind of square edge computerized contours. That's because we've only put in a few points, but the more points you get in there, the more organic the shape becomes. So if you get a surveyed site from a land surveyor, the contours will look more or less organic. But one of the nice possibilities here is if we have a site view, we can actually find out what levels these contours are at. And we don't have to draw that in by hand. We can actually use this button up here, label contours. So under massing in site, all the way to the right, we have this label contours. If I click that, I'll do it again. I can just draw a line all the way across the site, and it's put in the heights of all these levels on the site. So you never have to work that out for yourself. The computer will do it for you. Okay? Let's do that again. So under massing in site, all the way over to the right, we have this label contours. Just click on that, cancel, and then I'm just going to draw where I want those labels to turn up. So now we've got the levels that we've made are now in such a way that we can actually use them in a drawing for something. We can give this to somebody, and they know exactly where they stand in the world. Okay. Okay, wait a second. Okay, so we've got these contours in here. Now, what we can do once we have our hillside here, we can actually come down to the bottom, and all these little small settings along the bottom of the screen here. There's one which is called shadows off, down the bottom here, the very bottom of the screen. So I can just click on shadows off and switch the shadows on. So what Revit is doing here, it is actually calculating the exact shadow based on the position in the world and the position of the sun and the time of day, and it's extremely accurate. So you can actually make shadow diagrams for the purposes of planning authorities that show whether your building is going to overshadow other properties, for example, and so on. So the important thing is that you locate your building in the exact position in the world, the exact position in time, and so on. So the way to do that is right beside the little shadow button down here, there's another button called Sun Path. If I select that, we have an option at the top called Sun Settings. So if we go into Sun Settings, we can set first of all, we can set a still, and then on the right here we get this location option. I'll just do this once and that'll help you do it. And under the location option, I can change the location in the world to wherever I want to put the building. And just give it a few minutes to download the information from the internet. So at the moment it's putting us in Copenhagen, but we could, for example, say, well, no, actually we're down here in, I don't know, wherever it stops, Trikala. So let's say we're here. Oh, we need to give it more accurate stuff, actually. You used to be able to just click on this, but not anymore, obviously. So let's say we're in Trick Allah. So here we are. So now we're in Greece, hopefully. So it's given us a location in Greece, and we can actually move the little home button until we get it somewhere. Okay, so let's say we're in the mountains in Greece over here, and we can actually zoom in, and the resolution will keep going up until we actually can find the specific address, or we can type in the specific address up here. So then we go OK.
The specific address doesn't have to be coordinates.
No, it can just be an address, because it all works off. I think they used to work off Google Earth, but now it works off the Microsoft version of it, but a similar system. So now we have the coordinates of it. We've moved our mountain to Greece. Now we can change the date that we want the sun to be at. So let's say it's why is it set at 2010 automatically? Let's move that up a bit. What day is today? 8th or something. Okay. So let's say it's the 8th, and the time here is 9:07. So we can change it. So if I apply this, you can see the shadows have moved. So now we know that if this mountain existed in Trikala in Greece, the shadows will be in exactly this position at that specific time. Okay? Everybody want to give that a go? Presume. Now, because we've started talking about coordinates, we need to be very sure as to where north is. It's always very important to know where north is, because then you know where the sun is coming from. But Revit does something that makes this a little bit complicated, is that when you start drawing a building, it's easy to draw a building when it's completely straight, so you don't have to draw it at an angle. So in order to make that easy for people, Revit has something called Project North. But Project North is just what's the easy way to draw this square building, and it's usually up, down, sideways, so everything's horizontal and vertical. But it also needs north that's true north, which tells you exactly where the sun is. So you have the option of changing true north to being towards the real north, which you have to do if you're going to have a realistic situation for the sun. Everybody understand that? Yeah. It makes it a bit confusing by calling it Project North and True North, because Project North isn't really any kind of to do with anything to do with maps. It's just what makes it easy to draw on the screen. But it's automatically set up, and if we look at the floor plan properties over here, Project North is already set up. I can click on this and I can change it to True North, which doesn't do anything at the moment because they're both exactly the same because we haven't set up True North.
What this is orientation?
Orientation, Project North or True North. Okay?
Mine doesn't have True North. Yes, down there.
Project North, True North, okay? So if I know that True North is at an angle to Project North, I can change. If I select True North on the Properties tool here, I can go into, is it Position? And I can select Rotate True North. And here we have the option to say, we're going to start here. And we can actually say how many degrees. We can either type it in or we can just move the cursor until we get the exact number of degrees that we want the true north to be at. So if I say, okay, true north is 22 degrees over here, I select that, you can see that it's moved the entire project that we have to that 22 degrees. If
22 degrees to the actual north.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then if I switch back to Project North, it pops back to an orthogonal display because it's easy to draw on an orthogonal display, okay? But you can see that the position of the shadow has modified because we've moved the position of north. Does that make sense?
So basically, True North is like how it would appear on an actual map. It will be like
Exactly. So True North, if I go to True North here, if you look at a map, and we this mountain you find, wherever we put it somewhere in Greece, will look exactly like this, oriented towards north on the map. But we want to design a building that's square this way. So Project North, we put it this way. And we can always change it later if we design several types of building. It's just what makes it easy to draw is Project North. So that's the difference between the two of them. So let's try that. Let's try it again. So here's Project North, which is nice and square. So let's say I wanted to draw a house. I would draw it nice and square on this view. And then I want to change, let's say we've already changed true north to 22 degrees, but now we realize we got that wrong, so we need to change it again. So I'm going to go up to position, rotate true north, and I'm going to start straight up the page again. And let's say we realize that it's actually 8 degrees back in this direction. So we can actually move the location, and once again the shadows have changed to reflect that. But if I go back into Project North, it's still completely square, because that's where we draw our drawing.
If I don't remember how many degrees I took in the first place, can you see what actual degrees to draw you had?
That's a good question. Let me just think about that for a second.
Well, that one works.
Okay, now, what else do we want to look at today? Massing. Okay, so we've been playing with the site a little bit, and I'm just going to delete these walls I showed you. So what I'm going to do now is, if I just change this back to Project North, if you get a contract to design a building and you want to try a few different options on it, you don't have to go ahead and draw everything in walls and roofs and all that complicated stuff we did last week. You can start off very simply by making what's called a massing model, which is basically just a box that you can change the shape of without too much trouble. And this is quite powerful. I'm only going to show you the introduction to it here, but you can really get into very complex things with this. So under the same tab again, we've got massing in site. And over here on the left, we've got Inplace Mass. So that gives you a little picture that shows you what I'm talking about. It's basically creating an idea of a shape before you come into actually getting into making all the building elements of it. So if I select Inplace Mass, and it says Revit has enabled Show Mass mode, so the newly created mass will be visible. It automatically makes masses invisible. If you go into a project after you've been working on masses, you won't be able to see them. You have to really select them to become visible again. And the reason for that is they're just ideas for shapes. They don't have any real walls or building elements attached to them according to the Revit logic. So I'm going to say close. You can give it a name, so we can call it Mass 1, that's fine, and press OK. Then we get these familiar drawing tools that are always present when you're trying to do anything in Revit. So we have the opportunity to make some shapes. So I'm just going to start by drawing a rectangle, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle like that. I'm not going to be too careful about how big it is, but let's say it's a house 6 by 8, for example. Once we've done it once, we can press Create Form, and we've actually created a little box in the landscape there. We have a box, and the box is the basis for what we want to do. But you can see if I roll the cursor over this massing model, we can actually select any types of edges. So I can actually roll this to the end here, and I can select the corner point. And then we get these directional controls. So I can just take the corner and just drag it up like that. And similarly, I could take this line over here and drag it in any direction I wanted to. And take this line here, for example, drag it up. So you can quickly make quite complex shapes in a very simple way. So let's say it's something like that.
Sorry, how did you make the actual, when I drew the rectangle, nothing happened, like all lists and green.
Okay, I'll just do it again.
Where's the...
I'll tell you what, I'm just going to do it again, okay?
Oh, sorry.
So I'm going to go back, I'm going to go into either in 3D view or in level 1, wherever you want to start the object. And we can have the underlay switched on. Oh no, you can't see the side underneath, never mind. So I'm going to go into massing in site, in place mass, mass 1, okay, and then we get these tools over here, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a box. Let's say I want to, what would be the best way to do it? No, let's just start with the box. So I'm just going to draw the box like that. As soon as I'm happy with the shape of it, I just press create form. Create form then makes the mass. If I go into the 3D view, there, I've got a different shape mass here. Before we press finish mass, we have the opportunity to move all these points and lines around to create any shape you want. Let's say we wanted to create some kind of crazy house shape. We can do whatever we want with that. And once we're finished, we have a basic idea for the shape of a house or a building or anything. This is the very, very simple part of mass modeling. It can get extremely complex. You can create extremely complex shapes once you get into in more detail. But just to understand that this is there and it's ready to be used. When your shapes become more complex than just standard walls, floors, and roofs, and so on. If you really want to get into the architecture of stuff. Okay. Well, I go around and give a hand with this stuff. Okay, fellas, we better get started. I'm just going to finish off the stuff I was talking about yesterday, which was, let's have a look at the lecture plan again. Yeah, okay, so we did massing and site, we did True North, Project North. I'm going to just talk about mass floors and site analysis again, just so you get a bit of a grounding in it. So I think what we'll do this morning is just very quickly before we get into your actual projects, I want everybody to design a skyscraper, a crazy shaped skyscraper. So that's your kind of project for this morning. I'm going to do one quickly on the screen here just to see what we can get away with. But so I'm going to start with architectural template. And to shut that down, I'm going to go to site, and I'm just going to quickly set up a site like yesterday. So massing in site, topo surface, and I'm just going to create a flat site. So just 4 points in the 4 cardinal corners, and accept it. And now we've got a site to work on, a nice flat square site. So let's have a look at the elevation and see where the site is in relation to our level. So we can see that it's probably, there's the site, it's right at level 1, so that's fine. Now, I want to make a skyscraper that's, what do we make it, 20 stories high. So we need to copy a level for each one of these stories, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the array command like we did last week for the grids. I'm going to select level 2. Go up to the array tool up here, exactly the same tool as we used to make the grid, and make sure I don't want to group it. Make sure to tick this off, otherwise it does crazy things that they're not used to us at the moment. So we don't want it to group it. We don't want it to be together as one thing. We want it to be separate level lines. And we already have 2, so let's put in 18 levels. And I want them to be the same distance as these 2 are apart, so I can actually click on the bottom one and move it up to the top one here, so we know it's going to be exactly the same. So now it's made all these levels for us. You can see it's made level 19, so obviously it counts it as only one, so I'm going to make one more just to be sure. So I'm going to select the level, copy from there to there, so now we have level 20. So 61 meters up in the air, okay? So now I'm going to go back into level 1, because we can see that level 1 is at site level here, luckily enough. So this is where I'm going to go back into Inplace Mass, like we did yesterday. I'm going to make an Inplace Mass, and I'm going to call it, let's just call it Skyscraper. Let's give it a name, Skyscraper. And now I'm going to make some kind of a shape What do we do? Let's start with a spline. So a spline is a way to draw a curved line just by applying points. So this is the spline tool up here. So if I click here and then click here, it starts to draw a line between them. But it's actually generating a curve. So I can actually do something like this, like that, and like something like that, let's say. And then we press escape to get out of it. So we've made a spline. And let's see if we can actually make a curve on the other side. Let's see if this works. I'm going to do a curve. Oops, that was the wrong one. I want to use this one, I think. Or this one. Let's do it that way. This one. And then this one. And then we can decide the curvature we want. So there we've made a stupid shape. So now we can finish the mass. Oh, that was a mistake. Let's go back. Before we finish the mass, we have to go into select the lines, this one and this one, and then we press create form. Now it's asking us, do we want to make a well, let's do the first one first and see what that looks like. So I press this one and finish the mass, and I go into the 3D view. We get something like that. I can turn on the shaded view to give you a better idea of what it looks like. So if I go one step back again, and let's see what happens when we select this one, hold down control and select this one, go to create form, and this time we'll select the second one here and see what happens. Finish the mass. So that has made just the surface. So sometimes you get an option, and I'll show you, actually, let's just go back again and do that. So it was the tower idea again. This one, and this one, create form, get the first one, and finish the mass. Okay. So we can edit this in place now, and we can select, if I hold down the tab key, we can select the top element and we can stretch it up to whatever height we want. We can give it a height. Let's make it 63 meters, and we can play with the points in any way we want as well. So we can get some fairly crazy shapes quite easily just by selecting these small elements here. Let's try that again. So we got something like that to start off with. And again, you can just keep going back and saying edit in place and selecting elements of the mass and changing the way it works. Let's see if we can just, like this bit, that. So there's a fairly crazy looking shape. So now we've made the shape of the skyscraper, we have to add floors to it so we can calculate how much floor area we're giving the developer. So I'm going to select it, select mass floors. This turns up at the top here, and you can see that all the floors that we've created, all the levels we've created, turn up. So we just need to select the ones that we want to turn into floors. Just going to select them all. There's no shortcut to this. You can't hold down shift or anything. And press OK. And now we've selected floors at all those levels in there. So I can now select one of those floors, and it tells us exactly what the floor area is. So we could actually go and make a schedule of floors. And I'm not going to talk too much about schedules in the first semester, but just to show you what is actually the point of building information modeling is actually the schedules, because it means you can just send things out for ordering. So I can go in here and say I want to make a new schedule, and I'm going to make a mass floor schedule. Press OK. And now we can add all the elements that we want to the schedule in here. So we want floor area, floor perimeter, and maybe floor volume if we're going to do some ventilation calculations or whatever. And we'll see what level it's on as well. I press OK. And now it's calculated for us the floor area, the perimeter, and it's given us the level that it's on. So you could just send this to a money man, and he could go and figure out whether this is worth his while building or not. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna pause that, and then I'll go through it again slowly. Okay, so you can play with those skyscrapers, but just to show you the benefit of it, there was the schedule that we made, which I only wanted to show you that. You don't have to worry about it too much, just to show the value of this. The other thing we can do is very quickly you can make a mass model like this, and you can use all the shadow tools that we talked about yesterday in Revit to very accurately calculate the length of the shadow and the overshadowing of the surrounding building. So when you're going for planning permission from the local authority, you can just come in with a set of drawings that show how the shadows work in the area without too much trouble. So that's really all I want to talk about this week. Okay, so if you want to work on your projects for Niels, I can go around and give you a hand, or if you want to keep working on the skyscraper, I'll go around and give you a hand with that. Otherwise, I don't want to overload you with too much stuff. So how much time we got left? Well, we've got about half an hour left anyway, so it's up to you guys. Okay.